Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Denise would like to introduce you to William Godspeed. I don't recognise your name, said Denise. Do I know you? Yes, I know that, he said. I just want to be a friend. Hello, can we talk, please? Where are you from? He asked. Denise wasn't online. She came back a few hours later. I keep missing you. I live in Guildford. It's in Surrey in England. Where are you? I'm here, he said. You don't answer in time. In time for what? Said Denise. Did I miss a prize? No, he said, you did not. And where's here? Asked Denise. Facebook, he said. Oh, you live in Facebook? Nah, he said, just saying. Tell me about yourself. Aren't you going to tell me where you really live? Said Denise, rather than just Facebook. OK, he said. It's a step-by-step process, OK? Are you married? Just tell me where you live, said Denise. I told you where I live. OK, he said. I'm from California. Where in California? She asked. Indio Hills, he said. I am single, he continued. I have a daughter, but I need a woman to spend the rest of my life with. And if somebody contacts you randomly on social media and immediately tells you that they want to spend the rest of their life with you, there's about a 99.99% chance that you're talking to a scammer. I'm a widow, said Denise. I've got 2 children and 4 grandchildren. How old are you? Age does not matter, he said, as long as there is love. That doesn't answer my question, does it, darling? Said Denise. If you get the chance, always ask them first to tell you how old they are. It forces them to think about how old they think you might be, rather than waiting for you to tell them, and then coming up with a matching answer. I'll show you a really funny one that happened a few days ago in just a minute. It didn't come to anything, so there won't be a video. 55, he said. You? OK, said Denise. I'm 76. But you look beautiful, he said. That's very kind of you. And now, just for fun, we'll look at that chap who got in first a few days ago and asked Denise how old she was. He called himself Alex Harrison. He introduced himself to Denise and said, Well, I'm a surgeon doctor. I'm here in Syria for peacekeeping mission to secure the health of the American soldiers who are in Syria for peacekeeping mission regarding the war here. How old are you now? I'm 76, said Denise. How old are you? Our surgeon doctor, serving in Syria, took a second or two to think about it and came back and said, I'm 75-year-old now. And if somebody tells you that they're a surgeon doctor or a military surgeon doctor, you're almost certainly talking to a scammer. That simply isn't a phrase that a surgeon would use. They'd say, I'm a surgeon. I'm not looking for a toy boy in the US, said Denise. It's a bit of a long way to travel. You don't have to come to me, he said. I will come to you. Right now, I'm not in the US. I'm still at work. Oh, said Denise. Where do you work? I have a dream of spending the rest of my life in the UK. I'm a petroleum engineer. I was an accountant, said Denise, misspelling it. I ran my own business with my late husband. What does a petroleum engineer do? Really? You don't know? Why would I know? I've never met anyone that does that. It's still going well. I feel a long and happy relationship coming on. Oil and gas industry, he said. I kind of guessed oil, said Denise, but what do you actually do? We're drillers, he said. I'm a contractor. Oh, OK. I've always wondered how you drill for oil. Really? He said. Yes, really, said Denise. It's expensive and dangerous, he said, due to gas. OK. Do you want me to tell you more about it? He asked. Yes, please, said Denise. And asking you if you want to know more about it usually results in one of 2 answers. Either A, they don't tell you anything because they have no idea what they're talking about, or B, they resort to Google. Which do you think our man's going to do? But first, you're going to have to wait, because our man had a question for Denise. Are you on Hangouts? And so we moved to Hangouts. Over on Hangouts, our man got stuck straight into scammer mode. Can you please give me a picture, please? Can't you see my photo on Facebook? Said Denise. You can just give me another one, please, if you don't mind. Please? Okay, said Denise. And you know what comes next? Give me your address and I'll post you one. My grandson Benji prints my photos for me. LOL, he said. This is funny. You trying to make me laugh? If you don't, I will not lecture you how to find oil and get it. LOL. He's very good to his grandma, is Benji, said Denise. You can just give me a selfie, my dear. Please. Are you ready for the lecture? Go on, said Denise. Okay, he said. To find oil and gas. Denise waited. Is that it? She said a few minutes later. Shortest lecture I ever attended. You need some teams of specialists. Can't seismic engineering. This is the set of people in charge of finding hydrocarbon, which is oil and gas. Okay, said Denise. What do you mean by can't seismic engineering? What's that? They find oil and gas, wherever it is, he said. Okay, said Denise. Petroleum engineer drill oil and gas from the ground with the help of a drilling rig. Okay, said Denise. How does a drilling rig work? That's probably a pointless question, because I think we can safely say our man falls into the he's not going to tell you very much because he has no idea what he's talking about category. Don't worry, Google's waiting in the wings for a little bit later. Okay, he said, the drilling rig. We have about 4 to 5 types of rigs. You can't have about 4 to 5 types of anything. You either have 4 types or you have 5 types. Goodness, said Denise. I didn't know there were different types. There is, he said. This is a land rig. You use this on land. You mean you're on a land rig? Asked Denise. Land rig, jack-up rig, drill ship, semi-submersible rig, submersible rig, he said. Those are the 5 types. Oh, said Denise, and you're on a land rig. And he sent her a photo of a land rig. Where is it? Asked Denise. You can use each of these rigs depending on where you find oil, he said. That's your rig? Asked Denise. That's a land rig, he said. Yes, said Denise. Is that the rig you're on now? No, he replied. Oh, okay, said Denise. Where are you? On a jack-up rig, in an offshore facility, he said. Okay, said Denise. Where? In the ocean, my dear, he said. Some scammers are just such hard work, aren't they? Yes, said Denise. Where? Here in Ireland, he said. But I'm on relief assignment, because I will be retiring very soon. Ireland? Said Denise. Where in Ireland? In the sea off Ireland, my dear, he said. Yes, but where? Asked Denise. North of Ireland? South? West? East? Realising that our man was struggling, Google finally leapt into action. The Irish Sea, it informed our man, separates the islands of Ireland and Great Britain, linked to the Celtic Sea in the south by St George's Channel, and to the inner seas off the west coast of Scotland in the north by the North Channel, also known as the Straits of Moyle. Yes, said Denise, I know where the Irish Sea is. I asked if you were north of Ireland, south of it, west of it, or east of it. Really? I just gave all the details already, said our poor scammer. No, said Denise, you just told me about the Irish Sea. I just asked if your rig is north of Ireland, you know, off the north coast, or east, off the east coast, or south, off the south coast, or west, off the west coast. I didn't ask for a geography lesson on the Irish Sea. You do know where you are, do you? North, he said, finally. Oh, okay, said Denise. When are you due to retire? If I find a good woman, smart and intelligent like you are, he said. Oh, I thought you said you were retiring anyway, she said. What will you do after you retire? Actually, he said, it's not appropriate to give the location of a ride. It's against the rules of engagement. Oh, well, you can see how many scams he's working. Rules of engagement would be when he's working a military scam. And I presume he meant the location of a rig, because obviously they're very inconspicuous. If you flew over an oil rig, you'd never spot it, would you? Yes, I am, he said, but I need a woman by my side. I've been alone for about 6 years. I'm not surprised, mate. Oh dear, said Denise. I hope you find someone. Maybe join a dating group. Tell me more about yourself, he said. Do you think we could work something out? No, mate, I don't. I really don't. What do you want to know? Asked Denise. There's no harm in trying, right? I'm not looking for another man, darling, said Denise. I'm very happy with my life the way it is. He babbled on a bit longer until Denise had had enough of him, so she told him her phone was ringing. The following evening he was back. Good evening. How's it going over there? I've been very busy today. Hi, what were you doing? Asked Denise. Working, he said. Are you there? Yes, said Denise, I'm here. How was your day? He said. And what have you been doing all day? And if the person that you're talking to online repeatedly tells you they were working, but somehow can't tell you what they were doing, there's a very high chance you're talking to a scammer. Wrapping presents, making mince pies, cleaning, said Denise, who'd apparently been following me round the house. This was the 20th of December. What have you been doing? I told you already, he said. Working, she said. But what were you doing at work? How have you been coping? Been alone? He asked. What do you mean? Said Denise. I was only wrapping presents. OK, that's good, he said. What were you doing at work? Denise asked again. My normal routine, he said. See what I mean? Scammers have no idea what they were doing at work, because they have no idea what the people whose jobs they claim to be doing actually do. Which is? Asked Denise. Making sure everything goes smoothly, he said. Meaning? Asked Denise. You do know what you were doing at work today? No, I don't, said her man. You tell me. You're a very funny woman. How would I know what you were doing? Said Denise. I'm not there. I used to know what I did when I worked. I'm a contractor, he said. OK. So, he continued, I Super Vic all to make sure we get to the day's schedule. What's a Super Vic? Asked Denise. Really? You don't know that? OK. Can I ask you one question? No, said Denise. That's why I asked. OK, he said. You can ask, she replied, so long as I'm allowed to give you non-committal answers like you do, and you tell me what a Super Vic is. OK, he said. You said you had a personal business, right? Yes, said Denise. I ran it with my husband. Oh, whoops, that wasn't a rambling general answer, was it? OK, he said. If you ran your business with your husband... Is that a question or a statement? She said. What kind of business was that? He asked. I told you, said Denise. I was an accountant. To which our man replied, I like you. That's very random, said Denise. You're very intelligent, he said. What an odd thing to say, said Denise. I was hoping you were, as you claimed to be a petroleum engineer, but I'm not sure, since you don't even seem to know what you did at work. Did you go to university? LOL, he said. Another funny question. Why is that funny? Said Denise. How did you qualify as an engineer if you didn't go to uni? I never said that, he said. You concluded that, not me. That you're a petroleum engineer? Asked Denise, copying and pasting the bit where he'd said, I'm a petroleum engineer. A professional, he said. A professional what? Asked Denise. At what I do, he said. So, let's restart this video. Ladies and gentlemen, Denise would like to introduce you to a professional. A professional at what he does. A professional scammer. Obviously, said Denise, after he told her he was a professional at what he did. So what you're saying is that you didn't go to uni. How did you qualify as an engineer? Really, he said, this is too much. By going to school. You don't know how you qualified? Asked Denise. You can't qualify as an engineer at school. You either need to go to university or take professional exams. So no, you aren't an engineer. Goodbye. Very funny, he said. You being a lying idiot is funny. No, for the record, he said. Let me guess, said Denise. You've remembered which university you attended. I need you to pay attention, he said. No, Not that. I'm paying attention, said Denise. I'm all ears. And so our man thought he'd write for himself all about what he does. Listen hard, ladies and gentlemen, and at the end you get a special gold sticker if you can work out what he was talking about. Now, becoming a petroleum engineer is a very skilled and risky job to do because we have gas explosions and oil work done with total tolerance, carefulness now in the oil and gas industry. This is what we do. We drill oil and it's based practical. Everything we do on the rig is practical, all right? It's not like you accountant sitting in the office all day, settling accounts, doing the paperwork, trying to balance the credit and debit of accounts. This is practical work, skilled practical work. It takes professionals to make things go smoothly on the rig, not like your type work, all right? So you don't tell me that I don't know what I'm doing because I decided not to go too much into details. And that was all one sentence. Because if things go wrong over here, it's going to be a very big and large explosion and it leads to loss of lives and equipment. And that costs lots of money to acquire as a contractor and supervisor. What I do is make sure everything is in place, routine check every day. Make sure we hit the targets for the day's schedules I supervise and make sure everything goes well each day at work. Not like sitting in the office like you, all right. I do love a nice articulate professional gentleman. You still haven't told me how you qualified as an engineer, said Denise, but I'm listening. How did you qualify to become an accountant, he asked. Don't try to insult my intelligence, because I told you were smart, and I like you. OK, you're being rude right now. Trust me, mate, it'd be really hard to insult your intelligence. You don't actually have any. I went to college, she said, and did a B.Tech in accountancy. Then I studied at day release classes for 4 years to do my professional accountancy exams. So, stop insulting my intelligence and tell me where you studied to become an engineer. It isn't a difficult question. I studied 5 years to become a qualified engineer. All right, you did 4 years course. I did 5 years. Now there's one-upmanship for you, ladies and gentlemen. Where? Asked Denise. You had plenty of time to Google petroleum engineering course. All engineers, he continued, they spent 5 years in school, all right? So you can't send me what I know and what I do. You tried to outsmart me. You can't. I'm very good at what I do. This is not my first job done, not also my first contract, said our mature engineer, who's about to retire. Oh, whoops, said our 16-year-old, who really ought to be in school. Sorry, he said, you made a very big mistake by telling me call me to Google, and because I tried to give you a picture of weak, not that I just wanted you to understand what a rig is. Answers on a postcard if you can decode what he just tried to say there. I thought Google might help you find an engineering school, said Denise, because clearly you can't remember which college / university you went to, or where you studied engineering. Let's start with the country, shall we? Which country did you study in? It's in my profile on Facebook, he said. Which country did you study in? Asked Denise. I'll give you a clue. I studied in England. I am trying my possible best not to be rude tonight, he said. All right, you're already pushing me to the wall, and I can't like it, but it's getting harder. Which country did you study in? Asked Denise. The United States, he finally managed. Well done, said Denise. Now, which state did you study in? Ohio Northern University, he said. Phew, at last, said Denise. Why was that so hard? Did you forget? He said. Really? Yes, really, said Denise. Come on, you're being mean to me, he said, sounding like a 16-year-old whose mum's just told him he's got to finish his homework before he can have his dinner. I was asking where you studied being mean, asked Denise. Did I do something wrong to you, he said, because I don't recall. You forgot where you went to university. Are you getting Alzheimer's? You're acting very strange tonight, he said, and I don't know why. Did something go wrong? Yeah, I think it was your brain that went wrong, mate. Or maybe you misplaced it. No, said Denise, you're acting strange. I asked a simple question, and you refused to answer it. I've never met anyone that didn't want to tell you where they studied. You must have a reason for all this, Right, he said. For asking a simple question, said Denise. But just did, right? You asked me. Why did you ask? No, he said, but it's nice. I like it. Any more questions? I only ask 3 questions, he said. Is that all you want to know about me? Really? I've given up trying to know anything about you, said Denise, because you refuse to answer, and I have to ask you at least 6 times. It's so boring. You don't think you should know what is used for opening the ground? How it's done? He asked. No, said Denise. LOL, he said. Come on. If you can't even remember where you went to university, I dread to think how long it will take for you to tell me anything else. I'd ask you which course you studied, but I know that'll be another mammoth effort. You wanted to make me feel like I don't know what I do, and you ask and conclude by yourself, he said. OK, said Denise. Which course did you study? I studied petroleum engineering and geosciences, said another member of the team, butting in. Awesome, said Denise, and I only had to ask once. When were you at uni? LOL, said the replacement scammer. Actually, before I levelled up to become a contractor, I actually handle the drilling part of the week. I'm in charge of operating to drilling bits. Do you want to try typing that again, so it makes sense? Said Denise. Before I became a contractor, I used to work as a derrick man, a person in charge of handling and operating the drilling bit that makes holes into the ground. Why did you decide to become a contractor? Asked Denise. I think you know the answer to that, he said. Why would I know? Asked Denise. Everybody wants to be in charge, become a boss. Nobody wants to be ordered around all the time. And you'll find that a lot of these scammers think that being a contractor means being the boss, instead of meaning that you're employed for a fixed length of time. What's that got to do with being a contractor? Asked Denise. Were you sacked? Couldn't find a permanent job? Didn't want long-term commitment? You do know what being a contractor means? Yes, he said. OK, said Denise. So, let's try again, shall we? Why did you decide to become a contractor? Have you came a contractor because of my skills and how I get work done in time? He said. Do you want to type that again so it makes sense? Said Denise. Because I haven't become anything. But you used to run your own business with your late husband, right? He said. I did, yes, said Denise. I would never have worked as a contractor. I prefer job security, or preferred, since I'm retired. So, for the 3rd time, this is so tedious. Why did you decide to become a contractor? Because it's less stress, he said. OK, said Denise. Not like the derrick man, he said. I'm off to bed, she said. I'm tired of having to ask even simple questions so many times. Good morning, Denise, he said the next morning. Good morning, said Denise. I won't ask you what you're doing at work today, because obviously you don't know, and I'd have to ask you 6 times to get a sensible answer. So tell me about life on your rig instead. Our man then proves that it didn't matter which question you asked him, he still wasn't going to answer. Hey, honey, he said later that evening. How are you doing? I'm doing well, thanks, said Denise. Oh, OK, he said. What are you doing now? You know, the usual scintillating conversation that scammers have. Tell me about life on an oil rig, said Denise. Hello, he said the next morning. I'm here, and I can discuss life on an oil rig with you, but you're not always here, and text like it's an interrogation. We're supposed to be texting to know ourselves better. I thought asking about where you live and what you do was a good way to get to know you, said Denise. Guess I was wrong, so I won't ask any more questions, as long as you don't ask me any either. Does that sound fair? I never said you shouldn't ask me questions, he said. I want us to get to know each other better. OK, so I guess his idea of getting to know you better is that you ask him a question that he doesn't answer, and then he asks you a question that you don't answer. I'm not quite sure how that would work. I'll think about it. I thought that was what I was trying to do, said Denise. But you sounded like it was an interrogation, said our poor scammer. Only because you refused to answer a question, so I have to ask each one several times. It's so boring. And even when I say some certain things, you called me a liar. Well, I want you to get to know me. I'm a very fun person. Okay, yeah, you got to admire his sense of humour. Look back and see how long it took you to tell me where you went to university, said Denise. I understand, he said, which was a simple question that just required a simple answer, continued Denise. Yeah, that's true, he said. My bad. Exactly, said Denise. Well, give me another chance. Not an interrogation, though. So I think I'm getting to know you very well, said Denise. Let's just flow with the conversation, he said. I won't ask you any more questions, she said, but I won't answer them either. You saying you won't ask me any questions is nothing going to help us. I want us to build a friendship, with trust. Well, since you refuse to answer a simple question, I don't see how the conversation can flow. And trust comes by getting to know a person. I'm willing to answer everything you need to know. Okay, she said, so tell me about life on your rig. I don't know what it's like on a rig. Life on the rig is basically working nearly all the time, ensuring production is possible, he said. I have to wake up early in the morning to prepare some paperwork for the day's job. And as the contractor, I make most of the decisions on here, so it's a great deal going on here for me, and it could be really stressful. And I'll tell you something about drilling contractors in a minute. And what he's just said there shows that he has no idea what he was talking about when Denise just asked him. So tell me, what do you do now that you no longer work? He asked. All sorts of things, I guess, said Denise. I knit, I visit friends, I go into town most days, I like my puzzle books. Oh, sounds fun to me, he said. I'm surprised they allow a contractor to make most of the decisions. I'd have thought they'd need permanent staff for that. Christmas came, and I went to stay with family, so I ignored him for a few days. Hello, Denise, he said on Boxing Day. The following day, you don't want me any more. It's a bit melodramatic, said Denise. My family are here. Grow up. December turned into January, and Denise carried on pretty much ignoring him. How are you doing? He asked on the 4th of January. I'm fine, thanks, she said. How are you? And where are you working now? I thought I told you where I work, dear, he said. I was just wondering if you might be on shore leave, said Denise. Do you work 2 weeks on the rig and 2 weeks on land? And for the record, as sure as I can tell by using our old friend Google, that's the working pattern for most rig workers. You work something like 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for 2 weeks, and then you get 2 weeks off. So if somebody tells you that they're on an oil rig and they can't take holiday, or they haven't had any leave for several years, you know they're lying to you, and you know that you're talking to a scammer. She ignored him again for a couple of days. Good evening, Dennis, he said on the Friday. My name's Denise. I'm not a man, she said. How often do you get shore leave? I thought rig workers did 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off, or something like that. Yes, he said. Not all staff. I'm a contractor. I don't get off till my job is done. How come you don't reply messages in time? Hello? Hi, said Denise. Don't be rude, young man. I don't spend my life online like you youngsters do. He said, that's rude. How old are you? You were rude, said Denise. You don't reply messages in time. I don't spend my life on the internet waiting for a message from you. I have other things to do. I'm 75. How old are you? Things like what? He asked. Are you looking for a very old man to be with? Someone older than 75? I beg your pardon, said a very offended Denise. What are you talking about? I have a house to run, a family to worry about, friends to talk to, 4 grandchildren, a garden, and who on earth said I was looking for an old man to be with? Are you some kind of pervert? This is going well, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? I don't know how she can resist marrying such a gorgeous gentleman. Not, he said. Why asking me that? Now you're gone, he said. No, said Denise. You're the one that's going. Goodbye. I'm still here, he said. I have not left yet. I can see that, said Denise. Take your time. And that seems like a very good place to end this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it, please share it, please comment down below, please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you again in William's Godspeed, Episode 2.